We are recording, so Missy, if you want to start.
Okay, basically my first question is, I read that you received your undergraduate degree in history and then public policy. So what kind of attracted you to education and the school board and things like that?
Oh, good question, Missy. I got my graduate degree, like you said, in public policy, but during my coursework there, I took a lot of classes in education and economics, and when I found out about the vacant seat on the school board, I sort of looked at it and said, what are the school board's responsibilities? And the two of the main ones are policy and budget. And I'd studied some of those things. I'd also worked as a teacher for a year and worked as a budget analyst for the Arizona State Legislature before moving to Tennessee, and just seemed like a perfect intersection of my interests and experience, and decided to put my hat in the ring and run for office.
Missy, before I'm sorry to interrupt, would you move your chair slightly this way so Indy is speaking more directly to the camera? Because she's too much in profile. Well, I don't want her to, I want it to be natural and conversational, even more.
Like twisted this way.
Yeah, so she is more in profile, and therefore it'll be a good shot. Okay, pick up from there, Mike. Sorry for my interruption.
That's okay. Did you see any fundamentally wrong with the school, in this school?
Well, that was another impetus to my interest in it, is that at the time I had a young child and a baby who was just born, and lived in a community where a lot of people didn't have a lot of confidence in the neighborhood schools, and I'd had friends move away once their kids got to be of school age, or other people opt for private over public schools because they would see test score results and other things and say, I can't let my kids go to those schools. So I decided that I would try to, I'm a big advocate for public schools, a product of public schools, and thought I'd try to be part of the solution rather than just run away from it.
Can you talk a little about the test score issue? I read that academic achievement is like your number one priority, or test scores really heavily involved with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Test scores are a big issue. I personally am not a big fan of the overemphasis on high-stakes testing, and I would rather, and I think we're gradually moving towards assessments that are more integrated into the school day, so eventually students won't even notice it that they're being assessed, but we'll still have that accountability, because I'm in favor of accountability and being able to know where kids are and if the school's doing a good job. But mostly I want assessments to be used as a tool for teachers to figure out, did my kids learn decimals or not? And if not, was it one kid who needs extra help, or did it the whole class miss it, which means it was more the teacher's fault. So test scores are something I think we need to make sure as parents and as a community that we understand what we're reading, the difference between achievement test score results and value added. I don't know if you're aware of the difference. Achievement is saying, okay, here's the bar, that 50% of the kids got over it and 50% didn't. Value added says how much a child gained during a given school year. So a lot of the schools that I represent, some of the kids come to school way behind. They have had disadvantages in their lives or instability, so forth, and they might come to school not recognizing their letters or so forth. So you might have a third grader who's reading at a first grade level, and in third grade, that teacher could move them up from first grade all the way up to at third grade, at the end of third grade, reading at the third grade level. But they still might test at third grade when they should really be at fourth grade by then. So if you look at achievement test scores, they would look like a failure. But if you look at value added, that teacher in the course of 1 year taught them up 2 years worth of learning.
So do the teachers get individually evaluated then?
They do get information, and until this year we were not able to use that information as part of their evaluations. The legislature just changed the law that we're allowed to use that information and as part of the evaluation, and also that it's okay. Tennessee's really lucky. It's the only state in the country that has this value-added test analysis already available and really ready to use, and I think it can be a very valuable tool. I think it's a better way to assess the effectiveness of a given school or teacher, because the teachers can't help where their kids are when they started, but they can help where they are when they end.
Okay, another question. What would you say is the biggest issue facing the school board right now here in Knox County?
I think the biggest issue facing the school board right now is the Tennessee's raising standards. the standards have been too low. We've set the bar really low in years past and then clapped and applauded when a lot of kids passed it. But it was really false advertising, and I think human nature is to meet the expectations that are set for you, and most of our kids were. But we were setting expectations way too low. So now we've set them much, much higher. But I think in the transition it's going to be very difficult because, you know, parents who are used to their kids getting advanced or proficient are going to get these results in the very near future. You know, we expect in the next 2 weeks to send these results home to parents, and there's going to be some shocks because kids who were getting advanced might now be proficient or basic, and I think that will. I think that shock is an opportunity though to say, if we expect more, our kids can do it. We need to give the teachers and schools the support they need to make it happen. But our kids are every bit as smart as kids anywhere else in the world. So, but we just need to, you know, have those high expectations. So that's a big challenge.
At what grade level?
Going to switch interviewers now.
Okay, thank you, Missy.
Jeremy, ready? Okay. I'll be talking a little bit at the end about let you evaluate your own interviewing and let the class talk about it. We're going to get a variety of people get interviewing experience. You want to pick it up from there, Jeremy, and roll with it?
Oh, what did you say?
Just pick it up from there and roll with it.
Oh, okay.
Wherever you want to go.
All right, okay. According to Mr. McMillan, what is the different direction that Knox County is moving towards?
I'm not really sure. I think Mr. McMillan would be better equipped to answer that question. Are you referring to the quote in today's paper?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think he was referring to the fact that we have a new mayor whose campaign slogan was a new direction. And so I think he was referring to that. And also County Commission has only one new member of the commission, but it has a new chair, and it's gone from 19 members to 11. So he was thinking that perhaps it was time for some new leadership at the school board level. But the majority of the board disagreed with him.
So is that the reason why you won't be seeking nomination next year?
Well, I wanted to continue serving as chair this year because I enjoy the work, and I think it's good to have continuity, especially during big transition times with the higher expectations and race to the top and all that. The reason I would prefer someone else take this position next year is I believe in collaborative leadership, and you know, we're a 9-member body, and I think there's a lot of value to rotating the chair role around to different people. It gives you a greater appreciation for county-wide issues rather than just district level stuff. So I think that that is a healthy thing for the school board.
Okay, and what was the main purpose on changing the school start times to a later time?
We proposed that last year, but didn't actually move forward. There was a lot of community upset about the proposal, but it may come back. We proposed it 2 years ago, and we said we'd put it off the table for 2 years because we were able to come up with use stimulus monies. But the reason behind it is that if you have what's called staggered starts, you can have buses do 2 runs, one bus do 2 runs, and save money. So there was a budget reason, but there's also some studies that show, particularly for high school students that later start, you know, adolescents are not early risers typically, and they function at a higher level sometimes if class starts at, you know, 9:30 instead of 8:30.
And how much money was
going to be saved?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. Maybe like, you know, a substantial amount, maybe $500,000. So, you know, when you add that up to, you know, that's 10 teachers that you would avoid having to cut, for example. So, so to me, it's really difficult. Families don't like to change their schedules. So you get really set in your patterns, and families were worried about kids being left at home while they had already gone off to work and so forth. But I think, again, it's one of those things that change is the hard part. Once people get used to the new thing, you know, they adjust, and then that's what they prefer. You know, it's the change itself that's the hard part.
Okay, and I looked up something about you garnering enough funds to open up Knox County's first public preschools. How did you go about doing that?
Well, fortunately, Governor Bredesen and the state legislature have seen fit to make early education a priority funding-wise, and it was through state funding that made that possible. And we were able to find the space, but it was the state funding that enabled us to staff it with people, highly qualified teachers, and I think that will yield amazing results, for the students who are in those programs, particularly at-risk students who, need that extra support in the early years to make sure they get off to a good start.
Okay. And lastly, what are your third-term goals as board chairwoman?
Well, I want to continue to work on academic achievement, make sure we're meeting those new high expectations, making sure we have as effective teachers as possible. And also we have 5 new members of the Board of Education. I want to integrate them to the board and make sure they feel involved and empowered to speak and advocate for the same things. So.
Okay, let's cut it there. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate that. And
thank you.
This is, I'm sorry, Katie is up next. Katie's our next interviewer. It could be you next, and if you have a good question, we're going to have an open session toward the end. Flow as well interview, but I think it gets everybody some experience, so keep going, Katie.
Okay, I'll kind of pick up on the same note that he left off on with your goals for your third term. Mm-hmm. What are you planning on doing for keeping teachers accountable? Because I know we just had Margaret Griffin, was her name, has been charged with possibly losing her tenure. What do you plan to do to make sure that we're keeping good teachers in Knoxville?
Right. Well, I think teacher effectiveness is one of the key components to our strategic plan, and it's sort of a two-pronged approach. One is making sure we hire the best and then retain them, and the other is develop the people we already have. And if, because there's, some teachers are made and some are born, but I do believe that you can move an average teacher to an excellent teacher with the proper support. But if there's a teacher who's below average, it's the school system's job to identify that person, give her interventions and support so she can improve, and then if she or he doesn't show either willingness or ability to improve, we can't let our kids be in a classroom with an ineffective teacher. I have to say to myself as a parent with kids in school, if I wouldn't want my kids in a class with that teacher, why would anybody? So we have to always keep in mind that the kids' interests first, not the employees. But by the same token, we have a lot of highly motivated, highly effective teachers, and we have some who are highly motivated and only average effective, and we can help them through interventions or just through proper training and mentoring. Mentoring is a really critical thing. Learning from their colleagues. It used to be teachers would get in the classroom, shut the door, and do their thing, and maybe their thing was working and maybe it wasn't, but maybe their colleague across the hallway has something they can share that would be helpful, and we're trying to have more collaborative workplaces too.
So